What if I told you that one of the most important names in human history might be hiding in plain sight? Today, we're diving into one author's incredible research, a linguistic detective story to uncover what they claim is the original personal name of God, a name that, for centuries, was almost completely lost. Okay, let's start with a number. Just look at it. 6,519. Now, what in the world could that possibly mean in the context of the Old Testament? Any guesses? It's not a year, it's not a count of people, it's something way more personal. You got it. That number, 6519, is how many times one single personal name shows up in the original Hebrew scriptures. Think about that. That's more than any other name in the entire text, by a long shot. This isn't just some minor detail. This name was clearly a huge deal. And here's where the real mystery begins. On the left, you see what's in most Bibles today, the title, the Lord. But on the right, what was in the original text, well, that was a name that appeared over 6,500 times. So the big question is, what was that name? And where did it go? So how does a name that prominent just disappear? Well, according to the author we're following, it wasn't an accident. It was completely intentional, born from a powerful tradition of silence, because the name was believed to be just too sacred to even say out loud. The whole thing apparently started with how people interpreted this famous commandment. The phrase, "take the name in vain," was taken to an extreme. The thinking went, the only way to be absolutely sure you never misuse the name is to, well, never use the name at all. And that idea eventually turned into a full-blown doctrine, the doctrine of the ineffable name. Ineffable literally means unspeakable. So whenever someone was reading the scriptures aloud, they'd get to the sacred name and swap it out for a title, like Adonai, which means Lord. Over time, that practice of substituting the name just became the norm, even in written translations, effectively burying the original name from view. Okay, so if the name was hidden on purpose, how in the world do you go about finding it again? Well, our author starts with what they call the Alleluia key. It's a single word we all know, a word that they believe is the first major clue to cracking this whole case wide open. But first we need to get one thing straight, and it's a super important concept for this whole investigation: transliteration. Now, this is not translation. Translation is about meaning. Transliteration is all about sound. It's about taking the exact pronunciation of a word and carrying it over into a whole new language. And this is why that idea is such a game changer. The author's big claim is that Alleluia isn't really one word. It's a transliterated Hebrew phrase, Hallelujah, and that phrase literally means praise Ia. That little part at the end, Ia, is, according to this research, the short form of God's personal name. You can see the journey of that sound right here. It starts in Hebrew as hallelujah. Then it gets transliterated into Greek as alleluia. From there, it passes into Latin and then into English as hallelujah. And through all of that, the most important part, that IA sound, was kept perfectly intact. It's been hiding in plain sight this whole time. All right, but is that one word, alleluia, really enough to go on? The author says no, not by itself. So they start looking for other clues, what they call linguistic fingerprints, other places where pieces of the sacred name might have been left behind. And for the next clue, they pull out this incredible quote from Josephus, a famous historian from the 1st century. He was describing the high priest's uniform and said that the sacred name engraved on it was made up of 4 vowels. 4 vowels! That's a massive clue. So if the name is made of vowels, where can we find them? Well, the argument is that they're embedded in other famous Hebrew names. Look at this. The name Elijah can be broken down into L-I-A-U. Judah can be heard as I-A-U-Da, Isaiah as Isha I-A-U. You can see how those sacred vowel sounds I-A and U were preserved in these other names, even after the full name stopped being used. Pretty clever, right? So let's put the pieces together. We have the Alleluia key giving us the IA sound, we have Josephus telling us the name is made of 4 vowels, and we have these linguistic fingerprints in other names giving us sounds like I and U. With all that evidence on the table, the author is ready to reveal their conclusion. And here is how it all connects. The 4 Hebrew letters of the name, what's often called the tetragrammaton, are argued to be acting as vowels here.
Based on all the clues, the letter yod becomes the vowel I, giving us that E sound. Hey becomes A for an ah sound. Vav becomes U for an oo sound. And that final hey is another A or ah.
Which brings us to the author's final answer. The 4 letters come together to form the name YAH-WEH, pronounced YAH-WEH, a name made of 4 distinct vowel sounds, just like Josephus said. Okay, so after all that detective work, we have a name. But this brings us to the biggest question of all. So what? Why does this even matter? Well, according to the source material, this isn't just some fun historical trivia. It's seen as something with huge spiritual importance. The author gives a few big reasons why this is so critical. For one, they argue that using a personal name creates a much deeper, more intimate relationship than a generic title like Lord ever could. They also believe it fulfills prophecies that the name would be restored and that it helps people understand their own identity as those called by my name. And this verse, with the name put back in, really sums up the whole point. The statement, I am YAH-WEH, that is my name, becomes this incredibly powerful, personal, and exclusive declaration. It carries an identity that, the author argues, just gets lost in translation. And so this whole deep dive leaves us with one final big question to think about. If it's true that a name represents a person's very character and identity, then what exactly do we gain or what might we lose when a personal name gets replaced by a generic title? It's definitely something worth mulling over.